So the month of March has come to the end, and we are now in April. So I'm going to rank all 5 March 2022 movies I saw of March. That was a wacky sentence. From the worst to the best, in my opinion. Hi, my name is Nathan, and I like to talk about a bunch of movies on this channel. If you're new here, down below in the comment section, share your ranking of the March movies that you saw, ranked in your opinion. Don't take this list too seriously, because it's just my opinion. If you enjoy this video, click that like button somewhere down here. Then be sure to subscribe to my channel, because I have more content like this over on my channel, more rankings and stuff. You could check that out once this video is over. The playlist will be right up there in that top right corner of this video. And with that said, let's begin the ranking. Coming in last place is Cheaper by the Dozen. A fine enough, okay enough family movie that is simply just not my thing. On the positive side, this movie does exactly what it's going for with the family aspects, and I think Zach Braff is great in this role, but on a storytelling level, it feels like they have a bunch of plot lines and squished it into a 90-minute runtime. I certainly think that this movie would have worked better as a TV show as opposed to an actual director-streaming movie, and that's what kind of hurt the movie a little bit, was because it works better as a TV show rather than it does a 90-minute movie. Also, adding on to that, it has these moments in the film that makes a person my age cringe a little, because I'm at the target audience for this movie, and this is certainly a family film for parents and kids that are younger than 13-year-old kids like me. And so this movie is fine enough, okay enough. It did exactly what it was going for, but what it was going for was just simply not my thing. At number 4, Turning Red, a film that I have a lot more criticisms for, but Cheaper by the Dozen, the reason it's at the bottom was because it wasn't my thing. Turning Red, that's what keeps it over from last place, but it's still not that all a good movie to me. A lot of people, you probably, are probably going to be angry at this movie, because as of right now, it has over 90% on Rotten Tomatoes, and people are raving about this movie. This is a film that is targeting a very niche audience, and it's made by Pixar, and that just doesn't work for me. The stuff with these 13-year-old girls going through puberty, discovering how attractive they are, does not work for me during Pixar standards. I mean, they're known for making Toy Story, Monsters, Inc., Finding Nemo, and Cars, movies actually for kids that are broad appeal and everybody can enjoy. This movie is about a 13-year-old going through puberty and turning into a giant red panda on the way. And clearly that's what the turning red metaphor is meaning, as she turns into a giant red panda and deals with things with like periods and like, we're going to this concert and we're gonna come out woman, stuff like that. It just does not work by Pixar standards for me. Like I said, that's just my opinion, and your opinion might be different for this movie, but as is, it just feels like a very sloppy film. It has inappropriate, crass humor for a Pixar movie, and it is marketed as a family film. That just does not work for me, and it leaves a gross taste in your mouth, and makes me feel kind of betrayed by what Pixar is doing now. Pixar is known for having films, like I said, that have broad appeal, but they don't target many niche audiences all that often, and so I didn't really care about the characters either. They're 13-year-old girls going through puberty, obsessed with boys and boy bands, and that's something that I cannot relate to. So that might not be your take on the film, but this is a film that it just left me disappointed by what Pixar is doing now. That will bring us to The Lost City, a fun adventure film if you like the cast and if you also like Romancing the Stone. This is technically a remake of Romancing the Stone the way I see it, except starring Sandra Bullock, Channing Tatum, and Harry Potter, and it's a fun enough film for my type of film. And I'm kind of a sucker for adventure movies, and so, of course, I had fun with this film. It has some nice humor. Brad Pitt is a scene stealer in this movie. However, it's a bit generic when it comes to the plotting. This is a trope we've seen many times before, most notably Romancing the Stone, and so it's something we've seen before, just 21st century remade and totally visualized in a different new way. But if you like the cast and this type of film, you'll have a lot of fun with it. And I did. It's just a bit generic for me. And so it's a film that it did well for me. I enjoyed the film, but it just had nothing new to offer. And I probably would have had this one a bit higher if it wasn't just a rehash of a previous film. But I still do like the cast, the humor, and everything inside it. I just wish that they added something a little more flavorful and new to the mix. Our runner-up, The Adam Project, a Ryan Reynolds sci-fi vehicle that it's a fun, fast-paced send-up of these 80s sci-fi films that we've seen where a boy is swept into adventure. It doesn't even need to be a sci-fi film. Films like The Goonies have that same premise. You also have stuff like Back to the Future that has a similar type of thing. And while a bunch of films from this decade and last decade have seemed to try to replicate and remake those films, this feels like a film that is actually a sci-fi vehicle that was made in the 80s. So that's what I really appreciate about this film. Also, it has a very talented cast with Ryan Reynolds, Jennifer Garner, Mark Ruffalo, Zoe Saldana, and some of them aren't maybe as prominent as other ones, but it's still very good and very fun to see these cast of characters on screen. And so it's very fun to see this type of film. It looks like everybody's having a blast on set making this movie, and it all just works. It all has this rich little thread of line that goes through timelines and time jumps and stuff like that. And they do this thing at the end where it just punches you in the gut. It's very emotional when you get to the end because it knows how to properly set up plot lines and pay them off at the end. Now, what does keep this from first place for me is that while I'm a big fan of 80s sci-fi movies where a boy is swept into adventure, if you saw my top 5 favorite movies list, you'll know what I mean. And while as much as I love those, this movie was in development hell for 10 years. And as I was watching this film, it actually made sense that this movie had been cut to pieces in development. But it is still a fun, enjoyable film. And if you're a big fan of 80s sci-fi movies where a boy is swept into adventure like me, you'll enjoy this film. But in first place, The Batman. Now, we have been waiting for this movie to come out for over 2 years. And it finally came out. And it almost lived up to all of the hype. I think that it tells this great Batman story at its core, and it's just a nice little new way of visualizing every single character that we've known in the Batman lore. It seems like every character has a rich mythology, backstory to them, and is related in some way to another character who's important to the story and ties into some little plot threads. And so this movie is super duper consistent. Also, it is filled with Matt Reeves' flair and style when it comes to his type of direction. And I assume that if this movie was produced by another studio, it probably would have been rated R. But this is a film that has the ability to just do everything it can to be a satisfying Batman film. And because of that, it just does this detective story very well. There's a little plot that's tied to the Riddler. And even the side characters are very intriguing. Where you most see this is the Penguin, who is played by Colin Farrell, but you never see Colin Farrell. You just see Oswald Cobblepot in this role. And this is the most brutal and vicious Batman we've had yet. And this is my type of Batman. The detective Batman that I've been waiting for a long time has turned to the big screen, and it just pays off super duper well. So this movie has great characters, great mythology, and nice characters that you really want to spend time with and go on this mystery. And it's very intriguing because you want to know who is behind all of these murders, even though you already know who. And the great thing about this movie is that Batman didn't even fight the villain for 90% of the movie's runtime. And the audience didn't really seem to notice that and still considered it a great Batman movie. That just tells you how good of a movie this is. So it's my favorite movie of March 2022. There you have it. That's my ranking. Down below in the comment section, share your ranking of the March 2022 releases that you saw. If you enjoyed this video, click that like button somewhere down here. Be sure to subscribe. I have more content like this over on my channel. Up in that corner, yet again, the white circle you see in the top right corner, there is a playlist for all of my rankings of 2022. Down here, you'll find a video that is best for you. If you enjoy this video you'll probably enjoy as well. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you in the next one.